Hi everybody, it's Dana Tate, the middle school, high school principal and athletic director, and you are about to watch the co-curricular code meeting video since you were unable to attend an informational meeting. In order to satisfy the requirement for participation, you will also need to complete the form that is linked next to this video on the school website. If you've got any questions along the way, write them down and feel free to contact me at any time. Let's get started. Our agenda for today includes the following topics: contact information, health services, eligibility, and some general items that are related to our athletic code. This slide indicates contact information for myself, our superintendent Mark McGuire, and our athletic trainer Matt Beckadall. Matt Beckadall is hired through Divine Savior Healthcare and is here a couple days a week to work with student athletes. He also attends our events at night, or someone from Divine Savior fills in. If you've got any questions concerned about your student athlete or any healthcare questions in general, feel free to contact Matt at any time. If you're looking for schedules and other information about sports, you can use the school webpage. If you use the Calendar and Sports tab and then hit the Everything Sports link, you will be able to access calendars for each sport that we offer. If you are looking for specific WIAA rules in an individual sport or for initial eligibility, please use the WIAA website. RIO is also part of the Trailways Conference, and if you're looking for information on our school or any of the other schools in our conference, you can use their website as well. All right, let's talk about health services a little bit. Wisconsin Act 172 says that each athlete, each parent, and each coach must sign an acknowledgement of information every year. That is one of the required participation forms you will need to sign in order to begin practice. High school students will also need to sign the impact testing form. That is something that coaches will set up that is conducted by Matt Beckadall, our athletic trainer, and it is a computerized test that kind of gives us a baseline so that if a concussion were to occur, we can compare the data and possibly return students to play faster. If your student has any emergency medication such as an EpiPen, a glucagon gun, an inhaler, please make sure the coach is aware and provide them with an extra if you have it so they can put it in their first aid kit. It would be easier to access in case of an emergency versus trying to find it. Let's talk a little bit about eligibility. I'm just going to talk about a couple of the WIAA rules that are outlined in one of the required signature pages. Feel free to read it and let me know if you have any questions, but there are a couple that parents kind of skip over from time to time. I just want to make sure people are aware. They require students from 9th through 12th grade to sign their form every single year just because some of the rules change from year to year. One of their rules talks about amateur status, which essentially says that a student athlete cannot receive any awards of any kind for any of their achievements in athletics. So that would mean if I did extremely well in a cross-country race and a company wanted to give me a sweatshirt, we could not receive it because it would be in violation of that rule. In addition, the amateur status rule talks about companies not being able to use athletes to promote their own initiatives, so that an athlete can't be used to raise money for another company. One of the other rules that they've just changed is the non-school participation, which has to do with competing in the same type of sport or activity while that season is occurring that is sponsored by the school. For example, if I'm a cross-country runner and I participate in fun runs, that was previously not allowed. Now they are saying you can compete in two in that same respective sport during that season. Any others is not allowed and would be in violation of the WIAA rules. Now we're going to go into more specifics about our co-curricular code. Our code is binding for 12 months and 24 hours a day, which means that if something occurs over the summer, that doesn't give athletes a free pass. In addition to signing the code, watching this video or attending one of the presentations is required prior to the student being able to practice or participate in an activity. In addition to the code, there are several other forms required for participation. So the athletic code is signed by 6th through 12th graders. You will need a physical or alternate year card, a concussion form, impact testing consent, WIAA eligibility form, and attending this meeting or watching the presentation. I this year created a separate form that includes signatures for a HIPAA release, the athletic code, WIAA rules, and the physical or alternate year card, just so that there wasn't a lot of additional paperwork. I kind of show you here. It looks like this. Right now it's blue. If I post it online, it won't be, but it has the HIPAA code, WIAA rules, and then on the back it's got the alternate year or the full physical. And I did that so that there wasn't a ton of additional paperwork needed. So that would mean if you have that form, high schoolers would need in addition, the concussion and the impact test form. Middle school students, in addition to the form I just showed, would just need the concussion form. If you prefer to fill them out separately, that's completely fine. I just figured I've saved some paper and make things a little bit easier for everybody. All right, conduct standards. This would include, for major conduct standards, it would include anything related to possession or use of any drugs, alcohol, or tobacco, including close association, which means that you might be at a party and choose not to partake, but that would still choose to be a violation of the code. Some of the other things that could be major conduct violations would include any conduct within or outside of school that could result in school suspension. Minor conduct violations would be disobeying coaches' rules and school-related discipline problems, both of which could result in suspension from different activities or contests. For athletes, for a first major code violation, a student is ineligible for 50% of that season. If the violation occurs somewhere towards the end of the season, the remainder of that penalty will carry over to the next consecutive sport. In addition, you would lose any leadership position for 1 calendar year. The other part in order for the suspension to count is that the athlete must practice, follow guidelines, and demonstrate a good attitude in order for it to count. There is one other rule with this. If it is a close association rule, which again means if you're at a party but not partaking, the sentence is reduced by one activity to not more than 20% of the regular contests in that season, provided that athletes had submitted a breathalyzer and can prove that they did not partake in the activities. For second and subsequent violations, students would be suspended for a full sports season. And again, if it's in season, the percentage would carry over if there's any left. If it's out of season, they can serve the suspension by being ineligible for the next consecutive season in that sport, and then they wouldn't try out or practice it or anything. And then again, the exception would be the close association. If a student receives a third major code violation, they are no longer able to participate in any sports during their high school career. They shall accumulate over time. However, if there are 3 offenses in middle school, they will reset when a student enters 9th grade. The other part of violations is a self-reporting clause, which states that students can voluntarily turn themselves in and have the reduction of their sentence reduced by half. It must be reported within 5 days of it occurring, and if I already know about it, then it doesn't count. There are some situations where I'm already investigating things, and if a student comes forward as I'm investigating, that would not be part of the self-reporting clause. Another big thing is academic eligibility. All of our students are students first and athletes second. So we make sure that they are maintaining grades that are passing in order to participate in any of our co-curricular activities. All of the academic eligibility is based off the most recent grading period, based on quarters. For fall sports, it's based on their 4th quarter grades, and then after that it's based off 1st, 2nd, and 3rd for the rest of the sports seasons. For 6th graders, they'll be checked after 1st quarter, and all 9th graders will be considered graduating from middle school and will be automatically eligible to participate. For fall, WIAA rules state that the suspension will either be 21 consecutive calendar days beginning with the date of the earliest contest, or 1/3 of the maximum number of games, meets, or events. The lesser of 2 will be applied. So for individual students, I will be sending letters home and calculating which is the lesser of the 2, and you will be able to tell from the letter which dates they are able to participate in their first contest. For all other quarters, it would be based on, again, their quarter grades when report cards are handed out, and their ineligibility would be 15 school days from the day that the report cards are distributed. If a student does receive a failing grade, the student would be ineligible for the next 15 days after the report cards are distributed. Then I would do a grade check. If a student is still failing, they would have another 15 days of ineligibility. If after the 30 days they still do not have their grades up, then they will be ineligible to regain eligibility until after the next grading period. If after the first 15 days a student is passing, they can resume play as the schedule allows. The other part with grades is incomplete quarter grades. Incomplete grades show up if students have had an extended leave from school that is verified and excused for one reason or another. That means that a student would be ineligible to participate in any contest until that incomplete grade is turned into a passing letter grade of some sort. And that could be a day, that could be a week, that could be a month. As soon as they get that grade into a letter grade that's passing, they can participate. Some other requirements from the code. A big one is attendance. Students must be in attendance a full day to practice or participate in an event. The only exceptions to that would be if there's verified excuses for doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, ortho appointments, field trips, college visits, or any other school-approved activities. So if your student has those appointments, bring a note back from the doctor. If we do not have a note from the doctor saying that they were there, or a verified signature saying they were there, then that will not count. Parent excuses will also not count as an acceptable excuse. So if a student shows up late to school and a parent excuses them for the first couple hours because they overslept, that student would not be able to participate in practice or an event that evening. Also, for weekend events, the student must be present a full day prior to the event happening. So if I had a basketball tournament on Saturday, I would need to be in school on Friday all day in order to participate. Any unexcused absences from practice or within school may be punishable by the coach or advisor. There is a little bit of a buffer built into the code for extenuating circumstances that will be approved at my discretion. However, if a pattern develops, it could result in suspension from the next activity or contest. In addition to other requirements, there are minor conduct violations that could be something that happens within school or at practice that could be punished at the discretion of the coaches, the athletic director, or other administration. This slide relates to dual sporting, which means our athletes could go up for more than one thing at a time. We have a small school, so a lot of our students participate in this, and to do so, they must have a form signed by both coaches and pick a primary sport. As long as both coaches agree, they can participate in both, as long as they're meeting the required practice days for the team or individuals based on the WIAA rules for those specific sports. If the coaches do not agree, the student will have to choose one or the other. Lastly, the athletes are also responsible for all the equipment they are issued, and they must be returned in good condition. If a student athlete does not turn in their equipment or it's not in good condition, they will either have to pay for it, and they cannot participate in another event until all of that is turned in. So if I'm a cross-country runner who also does basketball and I have not turned in my uniform, I cannot start basketball until that is completely turned in. This is kind of the other rules or kind of expectations of students participating in clubs or activities or sports. A big one is communication. If there is any questions, comments, concerns that students may have, they should first speak with the coach or advisor to see if they can work it out together. From there, if there's still additional concerns, that the parent and the student should meet with the coach or advisor. If that still doesn't solve it, the student and I should have a conversation to see how I can help. And the final step would be a meeting with the parent, student, and myself to see what we can figure out. I know in some cases we get angry and we want to, shoot right to step 4 and come right to me. but I often don't have the information because I'm not there from a day to day. So the information you share with me will be communicated to the head coach or the assistant coach to make sure that I can solve the problem and involve them in whatever's going on to fix whatever issue they have. Transportation. We always provide transportation to and from events, and players are expected to ride the bus unless previously arranged. Parents are not allowed to ride the bus unless they are volunteering. I understand that after contests, if it's an away game, you sometimes want to take your child home, which is fine. There's a sign-out sheet that you will have to complete with a coach to verify that you are taking your student. In addition, you cannot take any other students aside from your own home with you. Sportsmanship. We have been known as a really good sportsmanship school. We've won awards with it before. I just hope that this kind of bullet points a lot of the positive things that we are already doing. We should continue to support each and every athlete at all levels because we really thrive on student participation and encouraging them to do their best at all times. I know sometimes we disagree with calls from judges or officials, and we need to try to make sure we're respectful as possible during times where we might disagree with their decisions. We want to set a positive example for our students, and we want to continue to promote the programs as well as develop our students to be model citizens. Lastly, if you're interested in helping out at all, we are always looking for volunteers to do chain, clock, book, ticket taking, concessions, you name it. We probably need the help. So if you're looking to help out a little bit more, feel free to contact me and I will set you up with different things that we have available. Otherwise, if you want to just come to the game and support the things that we do here, that would be wonderful. I really look forward to everybody participating in events and seeing you at our games, and if you've got any questions, let me know. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there is a required form you'll need to fill out at the end, but it is a separate link. So go ahead and fill that out to satisfy the requirement, and if you have any questions, let me know. I look forward to seeing you out in the courts. Thanks.